Salutations, AI listeners and human listeners alike. And today, I'm here to talk about the time of the month, the time to review peak. Boruto 2 Blue Vortex has dropped new chapter titled Uzumaki Kawaki. Now in this chapter, we see Uzumaki Kawaki turn up a bit. Boruto's plan come to fruition. And we see Jura's instincts of love, his research of love, get developed in this chapter. So let's get right into it. So this chapter is going to start off with Boruto and Kawaki Uzumaki talking about Boruto's plan. We see that Boruto informs Kawaki about the mission in the sand village, and Boruto's commanding Kawaki to, when he get his limiters removed, so when Kawaki gets his limiters removed, in this instance his attack power is going to significantly increase, but his defense is going to decrease significantly. So Boruto's informing him that when he gets his limiters removed, he's going to come to the sand village to join the battle with the Team 7, Konohamaru, Sarada, and the Sand Village people versus the Tree Shinju. Now in this scene as well, Boruto gives Kawaki one of his pendants, one of his pins, one of his symbols that he uses to teleport, uses flying Raijin. In this, we see that Boruto's informing Kawaki how his flying Raijin works. He tells him that it's harder for him to use it in longer distances. This is kind of the recurring thing throughout these last couple chapters that I've reviewed, that I've talked about his flying Raijin. So it seems like he needs to be static in order to sense his symbols from long distances. So when he's joining the fight to try to teleport everybody back, that's the plan. He needs to sort of lock in and sense the pin, so he can get out of there. So Kawaki needs to show up to the battle because Jura is going to be on the battlefield, and when Jura shows up, it's going to be death to everybody really besides Boruto and Kawaki. So that's why he needs him the same. We also see that originally Boruto was not supposed to come into the fight as early as he did, but it was because Konohamaru was about to be offed that Boruto joined early. The original plan was that Kawaki was to show up early so that he can sort of wipe the place with all the baddies, and then Boruto's going to show up. That will bring out Jura, because Jura wants to kill Boruto because Boruto knows too much. But that's not how it went. So now Kawaki's on the scene. He shows up on the scene, and now his objective is to buy time while Boruto locks in and senses his marks for the flying Raijin. So in the next couple pages, we see the battle with Jura and Kawaki, and I'm gonna tell you that Kawaki is on demon time. He is on his aura farming. He has been down this whole time skip, but now he is up. His stock is up once again. We see Kawaki swapping hands with Jura. We see Kawaki's signature cubes from Ishiki being used, and we see something that we haven't seen yet, and it's somebody breaking one of these cubes. Jura is able to break one of these cubes that he tries to drop on him, and he uses a Biju bomb to just blow it to bits. Now we see Kawaki pop up behind Jura and start swiping him. We see him grab him with his mechanical tree arm, and we see them start scrapping. They're trading blows, they're matching each other, and Kawaki is overwhelming him in this sense as far as speed and strength. And someone said he was able to imbue his karma into his staff to give it more attack potency and use this staff as sort of a medium to use his power, where he's able to use his little blasts and stuff. So he's like stabbing Jura and he's able to imbue his power into the staff, making it like sort of explosive. And he finish him with this little swipe of his hand. In this panel, we see that Boruto's dealing with one of the biggest things that he's been dealing with since the time skip, and it's his karma. Now that karma's on the scene and Kawaki needs to use his karma, resonance is happening with him and his karma, Boruto and Kawaki's karma. So he's trying to calm himself down, because when the difference is that Kawaki can control his karma, but Boruto's Otsutsuki is still dormant inside of him and is able to take over his body when he lets himself loose with his karma. So he's sitting there trying to control himself and sense the metal with the flying Raijin ability. And we see that Jura is able to tank all of this, even though Jura is basically blown to bits at this point. We switch to Amato and Sumire watching this fight on a computer, seemingly through Kawaki, since I guess he's a cyborg and he has like, I guess, a camera in his eyes or something like that. Maybe something that Amato got to where you can look at it. And we see Jura pull out his book. Now at this time, we see that Jura starts to talk about his research. He starts to talk about what he likes the most. And throughout this whole thing, Jura is shaping up to be a very interesting villain. Very he symbolizes sort of one of the big themes, and it's love. So Jura's assessing Kawaki's motives here, because throughout the two blue vortex, we see that he points out that Himawari Uzumaki was able to obtain great power due to the loss of Inojin. That's connected with love. That's what he's trying to make a connection to. And we see that Sarada Uchiha got more power because everybody was down and one of her teammates died. And then we see that Kawaki's on the field with a lot more power. Seemingly, so Kawaki's a bit harder because he doesn't really have any ties to anyone. So Jura can conclude that it must be him trying to protect Naruto, since everybody knows Jura wants to consume Naruto. So he says Kawaki must love Naruto, and he makes that observation through his research, which is very keen observation on him. And Jura asks Kawaki what does he think about this concept of love, in sort of the same way how Boruto did in one of the other chapters. Kawaki wasn't having all this talk about love, so he just uses his hand blast, chakra blast, to sort of shut him up. But that seemingly does nothing, because Jura uses his trees from his he reconstructs himself basically with his trees. So he heals himself. He's like, oh, you need to chill out, Kawaki, because I just want to talk to you about this concept of love. So he reconstructs himself and he makes a throne for himself. He starts oro farming. So at this point, we see that Jura is a real freak. He's a real freak of nature. Even though Kawaki is able to physically get the best of him, Jura has the durability to sort of tank all of this. Jura at this point points out the fact that he didn't expect Kawaki to come to Boruto's rescue. And he suppose at this point is when he starts to think and realize that Naruto is Kawaki's love. And through that sort of assessment, he realizes that Naruto must be alive if he was trying to protect Naruto from Jura. So this is one of the biggest revelations from the chapter, and it's Jura's being able to come to this conclusion out of just reading how Kawaki moves and how he acts through his past research that he's done. He's able to connect the dots from people getting all this power out of nowhere for love, and he sees that he's right. And this sort of angers Kawaki, obviously, because he doesn't like how he's talking, and he's talking in like a demeaning way. And he tells him at this point that he wants to consume Naruto as well. This is when Boruto shows up and he says he's ready to go to use his flying Raijin. But Kawaki wants to say one last thing to Jura at this point. And at this point, he talks about how he really doesn't give that much about love. He does. He's obviously connected to Naruto, but he respects Jura of his instincts to wanting to consume Naruto because they mutually share the same affection of the same character that he's so obsessed with. And then after this, he drops one of the hardest panels. But before that, Jura is appreciative from this. He really likes the way that he's able to talk to, humans, since they're sort of new people, new babies, but he's very intelligent being of him wanting, these human interactions. So he says, I'm glad we've had that talk. Let us meet again. And he flicks him off one of the coolest panels in the Naruto verse. Now we switch back to Kawaki, Delta, Mitsuki, and Sarada at the rendezvous point with the metal pendant. And I like this chapter because it has a lot of humor in this sense. It's really at the tail end of Delta waiting for the teleportation, the flying Raijin jutsu to happen, and Kanahamaru is in this case is too close to the pendant, and she's warning him that if he is too close, he might get stomped on the face. And just that happens. Boruto uses flying Raijin, and Kawaki stomps on Kanahamaru's face in this sense. And this is a very funny little 2-panel thing. And we see a little lightheartedness that we haven't really got much of since Boruto the time skip. And we see that everyone's ready to go. Everyone's ready to get out of here. Now we switch to a scene with Kashin Kojin and I can't think of her name. Kashin Kojin and Ada. Kashin Kojin and Ada is sitting here talking about what just happened. And Ada points out that she can't believe this happened at all. And Kashin Kojin talks about how this significantly changes how he saw the futures, and he can now see new alternate futures. And he's saying that the fact that Boruto survived is good, but his actions was able to shift everything. And Ada points out something that I've been thinking sort of this whole time with Kashin Kojin's being able to prescience and see the future and stuff like that. And what's the big deal? That's how it usually works in real life. You change something, you do an action, you change something. But Kashin Kojin doesn't really counter this thought or anything. He just starts to inform that there is a new Shinju. Mamushi is going to be on her ass now, because Mamushi is a Shinju that's going to want to consume Ada. In the next scene, we see that Jura and Hidari, Sasuke's Shinju, is back in the lair, and they're talking to each other. Hidari notices Jura's face. He's making this weird face. He looks like he's grinning. He looks like he's kind of in pain. And Hidari points this out. He's like, "Are you okay? What's up with you?" And Jura points out that he was able to get a compliment from a human. And this is also really funny from this chapter that Hidari points out that his response gave him the ick, quite literally. And this is how the chapter ends. So it ends in a very lighthearted way with two characters, two of the villains joking with each other and learning, you know, these modern things. And that's the chapter. Now that this chapter is over, I'm gonna sort of give you my verdict of how I feel about the chapter. I think this chapter was really great, probably one of the best chapters that I've reviewed, in my opinion. I think I want to give it a 9. It sort of has everything. It has sort of this weird, goofy humor. It has nice fights to scale things. Kawaki comes and sort of saves it. You see Boruto's plan sort of in fruition, getting planned and stuff. And we also see Jura just be a great little detective of him researching and finding out Kawaki's true motives. And you see sort of Kawaki's character. We see a lot of character from Kawaki and Jura in this chapter. And we see the effects of Boruto's plan. Also on top of some good humor. I think this is a great chapter. I think I have to give it a 9 out of 10. Okay, at this point I want to talk sort of some scaling, predictions, discussions about what just happened in this chapter, sort of my big moments. So we see that Boruto's plan sort of happened out of hand. That's not his original plan, but it seems that it was still able to work sort of in his favor, even though we had one casualty. And I think that's pretty good, pretty okay how his character was able to teleport there and use his stuff. It was all right. But in this we see that how Boruto scales with Jura and Kawaki, well, how Kawaki skills with Jura in this case. We see that Kawaki is able to really get the upper hand on Jura, something that no character at this point was able to do against Jura, against a freak, against a monster. So Kawaki seems to be one of the baddest people at this point with his abilities, aside from Damon. And this chapter wraps up this whole fight, and it's sort of interesting to think because Jura came to the battle to kill Boruto, and since Kawaki showed up, I think his priorities kind of shifted, or he wasn't able to run down Boruto because he was too busy with Kawaki. That was the plan. And then we see Jura sort of get infatuated by talking to Kawaki and sort of getting his research out there and really assessing Kawaki. And they really shared a connection in this chapter, which was pretty cool. So as far as that's pretty interesting. I can't wait to see how Mamushi is gonna do against going up and finding Ada, because Damon will be his opposition, and it's going to be exciting to see Damon scrapping. I don't think he scrapped this whole time skip. We saw him in Naruto Next Generation, him just big broing every single character that he was scrapping with. So what do I think is going to happen in the next chapter? I think that we're going to have sort of an off chapter, or kind of a rest chapter of them maybe returning and Boruto dealing with being in the Hidden Leaf Village and everybody's mad at him, and Kawaki's going to deal with the fact that somebody else knows that the big bad knows that Naruto's alive, and he's going to be dealing with that truth getting out for everyone else to deal with. And once that truth gets out, everyone's going to turn or maybe look at Kawaki in a different way, and that's going to spark a lot of controversy in the village, controversy that Boruto doesn't even want, because it will just further complicate more things in the village, where the priority really needs to be safety and trying to figure out how to deal with these big bads. So I fully expect that we're going to see Shikamaru talk about what happened, kind of run down everything that occurred in the Hidden Sand battle, the great Hidden Sand battle, because this will be legendary. This will be one of the biggest fights, very intro fights in the arc, in the Boruto 2 Blue Vortex time skip. This parallels to Naruto Shippuden time skip of the first arc also being in the Hidden Sand, the Gaara retrieval arc. And I'm excited to see what they do. They have to, I feel as though Damon is gonna have to get that little bro moment. No way Mamushu's gonna go there and just get deflected or reflected, his abilities reflected on the whole time. I feel like we're sort of in the era or where Damon's gonna get big broed. Hopefully we see that soon, because he's just a monster. Just fighting someone who just reflects every ill intent back to you is kind of a crazy concept. We also haven't seen Code in a while too, and Momoshiki. So I think we'll see Code before Momoshiki. They're really hyping Momoshiki and sort of waiting for his big return. So I feel as though when Momoshiki shows up on the battlefield, or on whenever, it's going to be very significant. It's going to be a pillar of the 2 Blue Vortex sort of transition time skip series. And when we see Code again, we'll see what he's been brewing up, because he's seemingly working alone, and we all know that Code isn't really that intelligent enough to conjure up these master plans. He's sort of a dumb guy, but he has this great power with the claw marks. So I don't know where he went or what he's going to do. We know that his plan is to, he's obsessed with the Otsutsuki, and he wants to sort of revive their name and do anything for them. And Ishiki left him with a promise to really uphold and really revamp the Otsutsuki name. So I wonder how he's going to do that, where he's going to go, who he's been talking to, if he's been out slaying, killing people, or if he's just been in the lab learning Sage mode or something. I don't know. Like, it's going to be very interesting what we see his motives do, or when he shows up. Hopefully he gets a big bro moment, where not a big bro moment, but or like a level up like Kawaki, because he's been big broed this whole time that he's been in the series. He aura farmed when he first showed up, and when he got Ada and Damon, but that was with some low level grovelers that were guarding Ada and Damon, an unnamed ninja. But his work with real ninja isn't really anything unless he has a bunch of these Clark rhymes with him fighting Sasuke. So this is sort of a finito from this little arc, from this little battle. So I think things are going to sort of calm down here for a second. People are going to regroup, talk about what happened. Maybe we get some more world building. That's going to be good. But sort of in conclusion, we see that Kawaki turns up. It was good Kawaki turning up, Jura deciphering everything, and Boruto's plan coming into fruition. And I gave this chapter a 9 out of 10. I like this comedy, its fights, scaling, sort of pushing the narrative, some cool little elements to think and sort of speculate on. And yeah, that's going to be the chapter. What do you guys think? Am I tripping of my sort of analysis of this chapter? What do you feel is going to happen next? What would you guys rate this chapter? And let me know in the comments down below. But until the next time of the month,